interview with Steve Poster. Mark?
You know, I grew up thinking of Technicolor. And when you talked about movies, you talked about Technicolor. That was the standard, the gold standard. I think the first project I actually did with Technicolor was Dead and Buried. Dead and Buried, not a big movie, but it was a horror film back in the day, and it was actually my second feature. And I worked at the old Technicolor building with Skip Nicholson, who was the color guy for us, who was the dailies guy. And Skip and I knew each other, but we were shooting in Mendocino, and I would send in the dailies, and the first couple dailies that he got, he said to me, he called me up and he said, you know, I'm not sure what you're doing here with this, but I don't think this blue look you're doing is very good. And I said, you know, in those days, the color, the guy was, you know, had that kind of power, right? So I said, Skip, have you read that script that I sent you? He said, no, why? I said, you know, all of these people are dead. What a brilliant idea. His tune changed a bit. But the people that I worked with here, and I worked closely with here, I formed very, very close and friendly and brotherly relationships with. I'm still very close friends with Rob Hummel. The people that took care of us were like family. On Close Encounters, I was originally hired as the Chicago standby cameraman. Which that meant was that it was a union position. In those days, we had 3 separate locals in the country, and if somebody from California came into the Central Territory, we had to have somebody match them. So I had worked with Vilmos on some commercials before that, and he was kind enough to hire me to do that movie. Well, I was very green. I didn't know much about anything about working on a big set. And this was like doing a master's degree. It was fabulous. They weren't willing to give Vilmos a day to turn the lights on the set that they had been prepping and rigging for 4 months. And they figured he would never do this. So what they said was, if you want to spend some time on the set turning on lights, you have to give the first unit to Stephen Poster. And he said yes. And so my very first day as a grown-up DP on a big feature was with Steven Spielberg. It was the evacuation scene with the trains. I had 1,500 extras. We had a Titan crane. We had arc lights and herds of horses and cows and chickens. And it was a huge, giant shoot. And that was my first day as a grown-up DP. Chris Wilkinson came up with a job. He was hired. He's an A-list writer, and he wanted to get back to directing. And he was offered this documentary for the Van Cliburn piano competition, which happens once every 4 years. It's 30 of the world's best pianists. These are like thoroughbreds. You know, they're amazing, amazing people. And he wanted to focus not on the competition, but on the competitors. So he picked 6 of the competitors, and the documentary focused on each one of them. It's a remarkable journey. I was the supervising director of photography, whatever that means. But what happened was, I designed it. I created the look. I developed some filtration for each camera. I'm very proud of it. I think it worked out well. And when it came time to finish the movie, I said, well, we have to go to Technicolor. And we came here, we did the digital intermediate here, did a beautiful job in one of the rooms, and I was very pleased with the way the entire film looked. It looked a lot better than what most people would think a documentary on PBS should look like. You know, I was such a fan of the 3-strip Technicolor imbibation system. It was just remarkable to see the colors that they developed. You know, we're getting into an age now of high definition HDR, and when you think about HDR, high dynamic range, what was 3-strip Technicolor but high dynamic range? And it was just incredible. So you have all of those colors that lived And in fact, I shot my still photography for years, and any color I shot in Kodachrome, because it gave me a similar look to it. It was a dye transfer look, and that's what the Technicolor system was. The work that Technicolor is doing in terms of developing new technologies and new concepts of imaging is crucial to helping us further this cause. You know, I was when I was president of the American Society of Cinematographers, I reformed the technology committee, because I felt that we were at a point where we needed to be engaged as directors of photography. Well, Technicolor has been very involved in that process and very helpful to all the testing and all the development of concepts that we've done. Technology hasn't really changed the basic tenets of storytelling. It's made it easier in some ways, and in some ways it's made it a little more difficult. It's very easy to leave the camera on, running, and you lose the discipline of roll, slate, take, cut. And that discipline allowed the director and the editor to have a finite amount of footage. Now we can just let it run and run and run and run. That's a little bit of an impediment, I think. Some directors really like that, but you end up with so much footage you don't know what to do with it. Other than that, the tools that we have, the cameras, the lenses, the digital intermediate process. I mean, Technicolor has two of the best digital intermediate rooms in the world, and they are so much fun to work in. I can tell a story in that room that I couldn't tell any other way with film. Just recently, we've seen the transition, let's say, of film laboratories into digital companies. The transition has been hard for some companies, and it's been much easier for others. I see Technicolor as a leader in that area. Technicolor has the ability to move quickly into whatever technology that is developed, and your color science department is excellent, just as good or better than any in the business. The technology that I work with in the DI rooms is constantly evolving and constantly changing. The on-set work that Technicolor is developing is a world apart from anything else that we've ever done before. So I think that from the top down, and I've known Sherry Potter for a number of years, from the top down, this is a company that looks forward. To me, there's a family attitude about Technicolor. It is I walk in the door, and there are people there that know me, that I've worked with for years and years. The rooms, the color science, of course, is impeccable. Technicolor's color science is absolutely impeccable, and there's a photographic quality to the work you do here, as opposed to something that looks digital. I really appreciate that, but I mostly appreciate working with the people. I think Technicolor is a venerable company that's going to be around throughout from the history to the very future of the world of motion pictures and television. Happy birthday, Technicolor. Here's to the next 100 years of Technicolor. I know you'll be around.